So welcome everyone to this webinar tonight. It's a focus of mine. I've been focusing on Venus for the last over 18 months now. And this cycle, it's called a shamanic cycle, or synodic is the technical expression. But Venus is in Aries at the moment, and she's going to start a new shamanic cycle soon. And that's the focus of this webinar tonight. And this is me, Pam Carruthers. I help people navigate major life transitions gracefully. I use soul astrology and spiritual life coaching. So what are we going to be talking about tonight? Well, Venus is a goddess, and it's all about the gates of initiation. And we're going to be exploring this shamanic cycle. We'll look obviously at Venus in Aries, and as I said, it's starting a new shamanic cycle very soon. We're going to look at also at your personal shamanic overtone, and there are only about 5 of those, 5 or 6, and these are before you were born. So it's interesting that this connection was in the womb. And I'll offer at the end a healing meditation. It's a very good one to do with Durga, if you know who Durga is, the goddess Durga. And I'm also briefly going to mention something about Aura-Soma bottles, which are number 1 and 10, because they're connected to this particular shamanic cycle. So here is a picture of Venus in the night sky, obviously illuminated with the camera flash there. And it is known as the diamond. It is the brightest star in our sky apart from the moon. And it orbits between the sun and the earth. Now, it can never be more than 47 degrees away from the sun, which means in your chart it's either the same sign as your sun or 2 signs either side. That's all it can be. So it's because of this, it's like the hand mirror of the sun. And that's, of course, shown in the symbol itself, if you think about that. Now, Venus. At the moment, Venus has been traveling through Pisces and then Aries, and this is important. And it started the journey in Pisces early in the year, 3rd of Jan till 3rd of Feb. And then it will go back again, 3rd of April, right up until the 28th of April. So there's an emphasis on the sign of Pisces. And Venus is exalted in that sign. It's very much about compassion, unconditional love, and huge feelings, because it's the last sign of the zodiac. And the 2 fishes of Pisces that most people seem to know, one is going up, the other's going down, and they are linked together. And Pisces is a very, I often find it difficult to describe it because it is so kind of spacey and out there, ethereal, and feels everything. It's a very, very sensitive sign, Pisces. Now, it retrograded. It started its 40 days and 40 nights, rather wonderful symbolism there, and that started on March the 4th, and it will finish that cycle on April the 15th, which just happens to be Good Friday, the day after Good Friday, so Easter, which is extraordinary. I don't think that's ever happened before, but certainly it's rare. It will turn direct at 25 degrees, 55 minutes of Pisces. So therefore, there's what we call a shadow period, and that's when it started, when it crossed over 25 degrees, 55 minutes of Pisces, and that was on January the 31st this year. And of course, that was very soon after the inauguration of President Donald Trump. We witnessed, before that, women marching worldwide in protest against President Trump. And on my latest blog, I mention this and how important that was. And Time magazine published a cover which said this wasn't just a march, this was a movement. And I believe that to be true. Now, Venus will be in Aries. It's already there as I speak, but it started on the 3rd of Feb. Will go on till the 3rd of April, and then it will go back again on 28th of April to right up until the 6th of June. So that's another big emphasis on Aries. And Aries, springtime. Aries, the ram, an animal, very different from the fishes. Aries, of course, is bold. It's just like spring. It's got all that energy of springtime. Everything's new. So it's the fiery energy as opposed to the water energy of Pisces. And this is very much like a birth process, because the last sign of the zodiac is connected to Pisces. The first sign is Aries, and that's like the womb to birth. And it's a very vulnerable, very fragile transition. So note those days when the planet Venus changes sign. You might be sensitive to that energy. Now, Venus only takes 225 days to orbit the Sun. However, when she's viewed from Earth, this Synodic cycle, and that means a bit technical here, and from inferior conjunction to inferior conjunction with the Sun, that takes 584 days, or about 18 months. And that's due to the interreaction of Venus's 225-day orbital period with the 365-day orbital period of the Earth. And that's as technical as I'm going to get with you this evening. So that shows you very clearly, there's the Sun in the middle. Next planet around the Sun is Mercury, then Venus in the pink, and then our Earth. So our Earth encloses those two other planets with the Sun, and then Mars is the next planet, and Mars can go anywhere. And last year, of course, it did go retrograde, but Venus only goes retrograde every 18 months. So as it goes retrograde, Venus creates this beautiful, like a dance of beauty. And it retrograde for about 40 days, as I've said, and only every 18 months. So as I've said, that's happening now in Aries and Pisces. So over a period of 8 years, these points of retrograde form this beautiful pattern, a pentacle, or a 5-petal lotus, a spiral fractal. You see Venus everywhere in nature. It is beauty itself. And it's the circle, the natural circle of 360 degrees. If we divide it by 5, we get something called a quintile. That's 72 degrees. And in astrology, that's a very creative aspect, not often talked about because it is minor as aspects go, but it's there. So you might even find out that you've got some of those. So the Synodic cycle, I'm getting my sins confused here. The Synodic cycle is the phase of a planet in relationship to the Sun. Now, when Venus is 10 degrees ahead of the Sun, it will be rising as a morning star. And this is called the heliacal rise. And in shamanic astrology, they call this the shamanic overtone. And quoting from the internet, the heliacal rising was considered a resurrection after darkness, the beginning of a new cycle. And apparently the Sumerians, the Babylonians, the Mesoamericans, among many others, began the Venus cycle with this heliacal rise. So Venus at the moment is an evening star and is about to make this transition. So here you've got 2 little diagrams. I'll just show you just very easily. If you have your own birth chart in front of you, you better locate the Sun. So look clockwise. Is Venus above it or is it behind it, below it? So the morning star is when Venus rises ahead of the Sun. And it's called Lucifer, and it's called the light bearer. And when it sets after the Sun, the evening star, it's actually called Hesperus. So this new cycle will begin when Venus is visible above the eastern horizon just before sunrise, and that's when it will be about 10 degrees apart from the Sun. So the last time this occurred, for those of you who like to look backwards, it was August the 22nd, 2015, and it was at 2 degrees of Leo. So we've been in the overtone of Leo, which is about the Queen. It's the lion, of course, the king or the queen archetype. And this is the tone, what we call the tone. And it's related to the 7 chakras and the myth of Inanna, which I will talk about later. So Venus has almost, but not quite finished, 260 days as an evening star and has joined the moon 8 times. So now, of course, we're in this transition because Venus will very soon be reborn as this morning star. Before that happens, Venus joins the sun. So this is a sacred marriage, you might think, of passion and purpose. On March the 22nd, put that in your diary, Venus will disappear from the evening sky and it will be invisible until March 31st, April 1st. And this is very symbolic of the goddess being in the underworld. And while Venus has disappeared, it will join the sun. Of course, we won't see that because the sun is far too bright. And the sun, of course, is the source of life. It's to do with our personal purpose. And on March the 25th, that occurs at 4 degrees of Aries. So when Venus joins the sun, that's why I'm calling it a sacred marriage of passion and purpose. And Venus will be transformed, and you could say empowered from her initiation with the sun. It's like the throne room, the king. The sun is, of course, the light bringer, and without the sun, we wouldn't be here. And it is a symbol of leadership as well. So Venus, what does it represent? It's our passion, it's beauty, it's what we love, and especially what we value. So Venus is also connected to how we earn money and how much money we earn, our abundance in life as well as a general thing. And when it combines with the sun, it's a real creative energy. So I'm saying March 31st, April 1st, because it's actually occurring at night, so you won't see it because it's a morning star. So on April the 1st, then you'll see Venus as a morning star, if you get up early in the morning. So it's going to be at 1 degree of Aries, so right at the beginning. And as I've said, Venus is then called the light bearer. And I believe that this Aries energy bodes very well for feminine power and leadership for the rest of this year. It's especially important, of course, if you happen to be a sun sign Aries. You know, it's like, wow. So Venus retrograde joins the sun in just 5 degrees in a lifetime. And this is quite amazing when you think about it, but that's why it's forming this wonderful pattern, this pentacle. So in, roughly 72 years, so for instance, from 1966 through to 2047, it will be the signs of Aries, Scorpio, Gemini, Capricorn, and Leo/Virgo. It will be changing sign. So these transitions from one sign back to another as the precession of the sign occurs. They're very slow and incremental over a long time, and only by a couple of degrees at a time. So here on this diagram, you can see when it was last conjoining this Sun conjunct Venus, 2007, it's at 23 Leo, and then 2015 is at 27 Leo. So you can see those degrees are, just not that huge. And then now in Aries, in 2009, it was at 6 Aries, and now it's going to be just about 5 degrees of Aries. So you can see also, other conjunctions here, 2006, 23 Capricorn, 2014, it was 21. So you can see how this works. So currently, as I said, we're just about to start the Aries cycle. Okay, so again, this is really saying the same thing. But what's also interesting is you can draw this pentacle without taking your pencil off the page. So you go up, oh, I know, I didn't expect to do that. You can go up and down and across and across and down. And it's a symbol of beauty, of course, to be able to do that. Now this is something I have presented before, but if you haven't seen it, it's a really interesting thing to look at. And all you need to do is to find a date before your birthday. And it is color-coded. So you can see in red, this is the cycle of the Aries overtone. So 1921, 29, 37, 45, 53, 61, 69, 77, and so on. So here we have April 1st, 2017 at 1 of Aries. And it will be the last time that that occurs in Aries, because the next cycle will be in Pisces, 29 degrees of Pisces in 2025. And these give an added depth, I believe, to your birth chart. Because, as I said, this is what was occurring while you were in the womb. Okay, so it's something you've taken on. It's something in the psyche of the collective at the time. And it gives added dimension to the actual position of Venus at your birth. And also, I haven't put a slide in this time, but also you can look, I've been looking at many people now with the last time Venus and the Moon joined before they were born. And that is a chart that gives a lot of information. And it's really important, if you don't know your birth time, that chart is timed. It's absolutely to the minute. So it's quite a fascinating look at what was going on with you and your mother as she was carrying you. So this is something I can look back at the end. If you'd want to stay and ask me any questions about this, I'd be more than happy to talk through this particular slide. I am also, I promise I can send it to you. It's not my slide as such, that's why I hesitate sometimes. But it's I did find it on the internet. I believe it's very, very important information to share. So what's going on in the charts? Okay, Venus joining the Sun, this particular chart. 4 degrees, 57 minutes of Aries. At 10:17, that's British summertime in London, so that would be 9:17 GMT. So obviously it would be different depending on where you are in the world. Now, here's Venus at the top with the Sun. Can you see them here? Aries is red. I colour code my wheels to make it easy. And here's Chiron at 25 of Pisces. So that's very, very important because Chiron represents the archetype of the wounded healer. So with Venus and the Sun and Chiron together, I believe it's very much about us, all of us, healing the wounded feminine. And this applies to men as much as women. It's the recognition of women being different from men. We're not, our bodies are very different, our hormones, everything, our makeup is different. But we are totally equal and valuable, both the masculine and the feminine, working together. So this is a very strong conjunction with Chiron, especially since Chiron is in Pisces, as I've said, very, very sensitive sign. It also makes a right angle, a square to Saturn. Here's Saturn down here. It's in late Sagittarius now. Right at the end of the year, it will begin its transit through Capricorn, its own sign. But at this time, it's still happily, merrily traveling through Sagittarius. So Saturn and Venus together is not an easy combination because Venus is all about our self-worth and Saturn can undermine that. We can be hard on ourselves. We can really feel we're not good enough. So the compensation would be work really hard to prove how good we are. If, you know, I've worked in offices and I've witnessed this with fellow women, you know, we really give everything to keep on top, so to speak. So this is the archetype of the Warrioress. And this, I love this painting. It's Joan of Arc, of course, looking so determined. and she's got her sword, the sword of truth, and beautifully painted. So this is the energy that for all of us we can now take in and work with. And it is relevant for the next 18 months. So the morning star, March 31st, as I said, that's the actual time it comes together, but it won't be visible till April 1st. That's why I've added that. So this is a symbolic chart you're looking at. It's not, it's the exact conjunction. So here we see, rather, the exact 10 degrees apart. 11 Aries is the sun, 10 minutes. So Venus is 1 of Aries, 10 degrees, and it will be retrograde at that time. So look in your birth chart. This is important. This whole cycle, what is going on in your chart between the area of 25 Pisces right up until, you know, this new beginning at 10 degrees of Aries. Because this is the time of letting go, Pisces, letting go of sacrifice patterns, letting go of the victim story, we all have them, and moving into the energy of this strong, powerful archetype. Burst of new energy for the next 18 months. And it's happened before. This is why it's so important to recognize this is going on throughout your whole life. It's not a once, it's happened once. So it's not at the same degree this occurs, but it is encouraging. I'm encouraging you to look back. Go, all right, 8 years ago, what was going on 8 years ago? And also to mention sweet 16, age 8, age 16, any multiples of 8, Venus will be back where it was at your birth. That's the, I love that expression, sweet 16, you know, that's what it is. Venus is sweetness. So this chart also has a very good aspect. Venus is aspecting the Moon, Mercury and Pluto. There's a quintile with Pluto, so there's a very creative energy of the planet to do with the underworld. And it is still squaring Saturn, and it is also conjuncting Chiron. So that's an ongoing theme. And recognizing that is half the problem. When we have, I believe, we have an awareness of, is it me? Am I undervaluing myself? Am I lacking in confidence? Am I being too timid? Not being brave enough? And it's also very important about boundaries. And I'll guide you through a little process at the end of this webinar, this presentation. So in Aura-Soma, what's fascinating about, I love this system, I've trained in it. It is to do with colour, which is Venus's territory. And the bottles, number 1 and 10, 1 degree, 10 minutes. So this is, what's the message? Now, the first bottle, number 1, is called Physical Rescue. And it's the magician in the tarot. And of course, the magician is the master of all the elements, and he begins the journey. And he brings heaven down to earth. And from Aura-Soma's point of view, the communication is with the being within. And the phrase is, the affirmation, I am whole. I integrate every aspect. And that to me is a very, very simple affirmation. Bottle 10, the green bottle, is called Go Hug a Tree. And in the tarot, it's the Wheel of Fortune. And green, of course, is the heart chakra. And it's harmony with nature. It's space, direction, truth, and the way. It's the space giver and a new space, a new place. And I love this affirmation. I have the space to do what needs to be done. So these colours, you know, to me also, the numbers, the tarot especially, you know, is like, wow, there's a lovely little message there for us all. Now, when Venus, this is just to say again, it's 10 degrees ahead of the sun, and it'd be very close to a star. how to pronounce that, I'm not quite sure. Alpha-Rats, maybe it's called. And Bernadette Brady calls this the head of Andromeda and the navel of Pegasus. And it draws greatest symbolism from Pegasus. So it's to strive for freedom and independence, to act quickly, wanting or seeking greater personal space, instinctive understanding of how to use speed and movement. Isn't that exactly what this is all about? You know, the Aries quality of moving with speed and freedom, having that freedom. And Pegasus is the most gorgeous creature, mystical creature, is he not? You know, he's got those wonderful wings. He's a very romantic character, I think, Pegasus. So it's time, of course, because this is a retrograde cycle, first of all, is to rethink our relationships and our values, rethink our sense of self-worth and self-love. Aries, this is a phrase I'm using at the moment in my coaching, is just do it. I'm using it for myself, shall I say. It's the Emperor in the Tarot. The Emperor, of course, is that wonderful, strong, contained, masculine, the Emperor on the throne, and he has a partner, the Empress, who is covered in all the symbols of the zodiac, and she is Venus. So the affirmation, I have the willpower, the discipline and ambition to take the first steps on the path to meet my highest goals. And I would add also to that about your intentions, because goals can often seem quite masculine, can't they? You know, men do tend to like scoring goals, I have noticed. But for all of us, it's about, you know, if we have an intention, it's got a more quality of less masculine, should we say, less kind of pushy. That's rather important as well, to recognize the shadow aspect of Aries, which I will talk about in a few moments. So this Venus joining the Sun, what's this all about? It's the goddess in the underworld. And Venus is associated with the Sumerian myth of Inanna. She's the queen of heaven. And in the story, she descends into the underworld to visit her sister, Ereshkigal. And she's witnessing the funeral of her sister's husband. But when she arrives, Ereshkigal is furious. She declares the upper world goddess has to be treated by the laws of her kingdom, and that she be brought naked and bowed low, because Inanna hasn't asked to go down to visit her sister. She's just assumed she can, but you don't enter the underworld and leave. That's the rules of the underworld. So Inanna is stripped of her power and her vestments at 7 gates, and then she's killed. So what's happened here? She's descended, she submits, and she dies. So she's sacrificing herself for a deep feminine wisdom and for atonement, which is, of course, one, meaning oneness. In the story, it ends better than that. Basically, she is rescued and restored to heaven. And because of that, she passes through those 7 gates again, and they are known as the chakras, and she's then restored to heaven. And she sends someone to replace her, and that happens to be the husband who took over while she was missing and took her place and didn't send for help. So you always have to send someone into the underworld to take your place. So this initiation, this sacred process to meet the dark feminine, the shadow, and that's what's been going on. She's actually ascended back through these gates to now be the Queen of Heaven. But Ereshkigal symbolizes this destructive and transformational mysteries of the underworld. And those 7 gates represent 7 chakras. And how it's timed is when the Moon and Venus join each month. I'll give you those dates in a moment. So the 7 chakras Venus and the goddess, the gates of initiation. And this is when Venus joins the moon each month over a period of time. And now, once she joins the moon, after she becomes visible, she will give up the crown chakra. She's giving up her crown. And then it will finally end with her giving up her root chakra, her life. So it's a surrendering process. There's nothing bad about this, you know, like good is ascending, bad is descending. It's part of a cycle. And it is said in mythology also, Venus as a morning star is quite fierce. So not to think of Venus as weak in any way. So these are the gates of the year to come. So the first gate, the crown chakra, when she removes her crown, that will be on April the 23rd, right at the end of Pisces, 28 degrees of Pisces, and it will be very close to Chiron. Often what I've noticed is stories relating to women do start to appear, and they can appear before these actual dates, but they can represent a theme of that particular chakra. So watch this space. You know, it could be a woman resigning, for instance, you know, a woman in leadership, or being pushed out, has happened. The next time, April 22nd, that's the gate of perception, her royal staff. Now that's an exciting connection because Venus and the moon will be very close to Uranus, also in Aries, and opposing Jupiter. So freedom marches could well be going on around that time, just as an example. The throat chakra, the gate of communication, this is her necklace, and that's June 20th, 2017, at 14 Taurus, Venus's own sign, Taurus. And this is positive. It has a very positive connection to Neptune and also a trine to Pluto. So this is a very, very important one to watch. The heart chakra is on July the 20th at 17 of Gemini. That also is good. It's trining Jupiter. So there's quite a lot of positive connections through the year. And when Venus and the moon join, sometimes we can see them. Now, because she's a morning star, we might not see these, but sometimes we do see the moon during the day, of course. The solar plexus, the gate of personal power, that's when she removes her ring of power. And that's August 19th at 21 of Cancer, creating a grand cross at the time. That's a very, very powerful time, because also there'll be an eclipse, so a full solar eclipse happening in August this year, right through the middle of America. So, you know, really is going to be a very important month. And that grand cross involves Jupiter, Uranus and Pluto, so the heavyweight planets, Uranus and Pluto. The sacral chakra, the gate of creativity, that's going on September the 18th at 27 of Leo. That again is exciting because there's a trine, a flow of energy is a trine to Uranus. Uranus is all about change. And if there's a trine, it's a positive change, not a negative one. Quite inspirational, quite could be genius. An idea that you go, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And then the root chakra, October 18th at 4 of Libra. This is right next to Mars and opposite Chiron. So that also, that doesn't look like a good one. That looks like something violent might be going on. Death by intent is the gate 8, and that will be on the 17th of November at 12 of Scorpio. But also has got a trine to Neptune. So these dates, I've been following them, and I've performed rituals on many of these, not all of them, but a lot of them. And especially at night, because it's more of a time for a ritual. And I know quite a few of you really enjoyed doing those rituals. So those are your dates ahead of time. I can, of course, let you have these as a Word document. Just let me know, just email me, pam@healingstars.com. So the goddesses of Aries. Durga, she's the Indian goddess. There she is on her tiger with her arrows. She's fighter. She fights demons. She kills them. She's cool, super cool. Now Artemis and Diana, the warrioress, this is who they are. They are youthful, confident. They are focused and vibrant. They protect others. They have strong boundaries. They fight for justice. So they're disciplined. They trust their instincts and they act quickly. Aries is a heroic archetype. Aries acts before it thinks, which can be rash, of course, at times, but also, you know, if there's a burning building, a child's in the building, the Aries just goes and rescues the child. So that quick thinking can save lives. I love this Diana card, Focused Intention. She's from the Goddess pack of cards by Doreen Virtue. Goddess Guidance Oracle cards. I have them in front of me. They're quite wonderful, beautifully illustrated. And I love her statement. Keep your unwavering thoughts, feelings, and actions focused on your target, and you will make your mark. These arrows aren't meant to attack people. They're meant to give a focus. And, you know, it's like in archery, you know, you hit your mark. And the archer, Sagittarius, of course, is the archer. It's about having a goal somewhere, you know, you're focused on something and you send that energy towards that as a mission. And then once you've achieved it, you go on to the next one. And that, of course, is where Saturn is in the sign of Sagittarius at the moment. So the positive, you know, the negative energy would be, oh, I give up. I'm not going to reach my target. Who am I? You know, it's all the self-doubt words that we have. Why bother? Procrastination, all of those things. And this is leading me to the shadow. Now, the first shadow is Superwoman. You know, she's, I mean, I've never worked out about Superwoman, to be honest with you, in the, you know, the comic book, but she's just like, she could be a man, isn't she? You know, she's got so much aggression, and that can lead to burnout. So Superwoman, if you have this running in your life, you might push yourself to be more like a man and run on adrenaline. And women aren't built to run on adrenaline. It's not natural, right? And this is what burnout can be. So having impossible standards. So that means it can, if anyone, you know, she's a leader of a team, the team will get very demotivated because they can't possibly reach her standards. Have you ever worked with someone like that, I wonder? Or have you ever been like that? Possibly, I'm thinking to myself. But also the other side is complete lack of motivation, being a victim, being ignored and dumped upon, feeling powerless. So no boundaries at all, and lacks decisiveness. See, Aries is good at just doing it. That's my new motto. Just do it, Pam, I tell myself at times when I think, shall I or shan't I? Shall I wash my hair? Just do it. Yeah. And it's a good thing to take on. So I'm now going to offer a lovely little meditation, and it is from a book called the Goddess Oracle that I've worked with for many, many years, and I ran workshops with the lovely Anna Zyman. We use these on our workshops together. And they're very beautiful. So I invite you now, I'll just read the last slide to get into the mode. So it's about Durga, and it's about creating clear boundaries. And this is for men and women both. We can all do this. So the idea is, the questions are, what are you taking inside that should remain outside? How are you not protecting yourself, your life, your time? Is the statement, no, I can't do this right now, I need to care for myself, part of your vocabulary? So if it's not, it's time to adopt it. Perhaps you might feel dumped upon by others. Are you feeling pulled off your center by demands to give and give until there's nothing left for yourself? So Durga is here to assist you in nurturing wholeness by creating and fixing the limits of your personal space through this little meditation I'm going to give you in a moment. So it's helped you establishing clear boundaries, and this is self-love. Having no boundaries gives others the message that you are limitless and want to be treated in a limitless way. No one, of course, is limitless. There are places where we can get hurt, there are places where we're vulnerable, and there are places that need to be treated with care. So Durga is saying, your boundaries are vital because they let others know who you are and where you stand. And of course, if you have children, they are looking to you as their role model. And this is true for anyone, isn't it? So we have people and they're watching us, and by teaching good boundaries, it's such a gift to give to others. So are you ready? Hopefully you are. So I'd like you now to sit comfortably with your feet on the floor. If you are driving and listening and watching, please don't stop immediately, because this is meant to, of course, take you into another space. So if you'd like to close your eyes, take a couple of breaths, keep your spine straight. You might want to stretch a little bit if you're feeling at all tense. Just relax. So what I'd like you to do is to create a circle around you of any material that makes you feel safe and protected. So once you've created this circle around yourself, make the space within the circle as large or as small as you want. It can be miles from the center of the circle to the outer, or it can be inches. Take as much space as you need. You might like to imagine yourself in a very safe and nurtured place as you do this. Wherever you feel comfortable. It might be in nature, it might be your favorite place which you've actually been to in the world. It's definitely a place of peace and quietness and total safety. And now you have this space. Fill your circle with whatever nurtures you. You can fill it with colour. So see what colour makes you feel completely protected. You can put flowers in your sacred space, plants, animals as well. Anything you want, as long as it nurtures, supports and loves you. However, I strongly suggest you don't fill it with people, because this is your private space and you're not required to share your space. So whatever nurtures, supports and loves you. So whatever colour or colours you choose, allow those colours to revolve around you, circle around you. Breathe in those colours that represent this beautiful space for you. And the amount of space you need may vary in different situations. Sometimes you might need vast amounts of space, and other times very little. The choice is always yours. And the materials you use to create your sacred circle of self may change over time. The sacred circle of self is adaptable and flexible to your needs. So if you just sit with your sacred circle of self around you until you sense your boundary is in place, ready to protect and nurture you. You might want to place paint symbols on the circle as well. You might want to invite in the goddess Durga or the goddess Diana or Artemis. You might want a sound that also helps you feel that space. So when you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back to the present moment. And to reactivate your sacred circle of self, you only need pause, close your eyes, take a deep breath and visualize, sense or feel it once more around you. So here she is. This is what Venus in the morning sky will look like. It's obviously a photograph taken before this has happened. But if you've ever got up early in the morning and looked up and seen something bright in the sky apart from the sun or the moon, it will be Venus. And Venus is awesome, as the Americans say. So thank you for watching. Here I am, Pam Carruthers, healingstars.com. And if you signed up for the webinar, you will be sent my next newsletter. And I welcome any feedback you'd like to give me. And if that superwoman has touched a chord in you, I am about to coach women through a series of 12 coaching program series. And one of the processes that we do is called retiring superwoman. Or it could be retiring the victim as another example. And again, if you're interested in that, just drop me an email, pam@healingstars.com.